Good evening, good evening, good evening. How is everyone doing? Excuse me. Let me make sure I'm coming in nice and loud. Sorry for the cough. All right, I can't hear myself, which is great. So I can take my headphones off. Yeah, just going to prepare a few things here. So, going live. So what is this all about? Drush, that's right. Or drush, as some people have mentioned. Drupal drush, going live. There we go. There we go. All right, cool. All right, let's have a sip of water and then we can get into it. Oh, excuse me, excuse me. Okay. Let's post that. And I'll jump onto this side right here. And pop this down. Start recording. Oof. Nearly stuffed up there. And I just need to start recording other parts so we can get right into it. So what is this? No, don't want that. Why is that there? Put in pod mic. What is it? Pod mic USB. Big one. Big monitor. Good to go. Okay, let's jump over to the main feed. And just start things off. Let me make sure everything's coming in. Yeah, I do believe everything's coming in loud and clear. Awesome. Okay, cool. Now, before we start, I just need to mention this. Now, recently I have launched the WebWash Premium community. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I finally got around to launching about 2 weeks ago. And what it is, it's my way of trying to monetize these live streams. Now, these live streams will always be free on YouTube, but there are ads or mid-roll ads. And right now, I do have a lifetime access where you get lifetime access to the community. And what this community gives you, access to a forum where you can ask questions. So you can ask me any questions you want about Drupal or any other type of technology. And also, best of all, I'm in the process of updating all these live streams and cutting them up into separate, shorter videos. And they're also ad-free as well. So you can watch it in better quality without any ads on YouTube and things like that. And I'm just slowly doing it as I go through things. So if you want to support the channel, check it out. And yeah, I'll be more than, and I'd love to get people's opinion about this thing as well. So if you have any feedback on what you would recommend, and yeah, please let me know. Okay. All right, so we've got our first comment. Oh, this is a tough one. Recently lost my job as a web developer, a web dev in Drupal. This is my second week as unemployed. What do you suggest? They say the market is tough. Yeah, the market is tough. The market is tough. when it comes to suggestions, I mean, I've been doing a fair bit of contracting, but not in a full-time capacity because I've also been looking for a more of a full-time gig. But things have been difficult on that end for me as well. So I've been doing shorter contracts uh, with 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 the same agencies, but it's really just half days here and there. And yeah, it is tough out there. I mean, the best thing you can do is just put yourself out there. And I know that kind of isn't the right thing to say when you're literally looking for a job, because to actually, they often say, oh, get out there and, put out content and show. It's like, yeah, but that takes time, you know, that takes time. And I've been producing content, you know, for many, many years. And I've still had, moments where it's like I've had no work, and it is kind of scary as well. So yeah, it is a tough market out there. And yeah, I wish you luck. But yeah, best thing you can do is just put yourself out there and just contact people. That's the other thing you can do. Um, I heard a great saying before about what is it? The riches are in the follow up or something. Just follow up with people. Just following up. Yeah. Find people on LinkedIn and see how you go. But yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. All right, so let's just jump straight into it. So what is drush? Or as I've heard it called before, drush, similar to like Drupal or like Drupal. There's multiple ways of pronouncing it, but drush. What is drush? Well, drush is pretty much stands for Drupal shell. And that's what's mentioned right down at the bottom here. Where did I see that? Oh, here you go. What does drush stand for? The Drupal shell. And then here, it also gives you a nice explanation of how you can pronounce it. But essentially, it is a command line tool or CLI tool, CLI interface, command line interface for interacting with your Drupal site. So you can do all sorts of things, such as clear the cache, run a status, create things as well. You can create entities, fields, and also when you install modules, you also get extra functionality and commands as well. So you can go ahead and if you install, I'm sure if you install Devel, for example, you can then go ahead and generate your test content. There is a lot you can do. Now, to install it is relatively simple. Just go to the Drush site and click on Use and then go Install. And all you need to do is run this single command. Let me just zoom this in a little bit more so we can see it. You need to run this composer require drush/drush, and that is it. Now, drush itself is not a Drupal module. It's a PHP library essentially. And I do believe it uses the Symfony console component to interact with the command line. So it's not a Drupal module, like a standard module, but the way you install it is exactly the same. But instead of going composer require Drupal slash whatever, you go composer require drush/drush. All right, another comment here. I know I've been applying since I had a job. Would also consider doing projects in WordPress or other development frameworks. Oh yeah. Hey man, I've been looking at I've played a bit around with Symfony and Laravel. And I have actually spent more time playing around with them purely because, yeah, having those type of skills is very important, because if you understand, if you are a web developer that specializes in Drupal and you do write a lot of PHP code, then picking up Symfony or Laravel should be relatively straightforward, as long as you understand the standard frameworky type of stuff of, what is it? A controller, a model. Even though Drupal doesn't follow that exactly, like in Drupal you do have a controller, but the model part doesn't follow the standard model that you do get in, say, Symfony, or what is it, Doctrine, and then you have in Laravel or even Ruby on Rails. It doesn't follow that particular method, but it's all very similar. But yeah, I would recommend that you just start playing around with other frameworks and just see what you like. Because yeah, Drupal's going through a funny phase right now. I did bring it up just recently at a meetup, well, that I did online, that right now with this experience builder, or sorry, no, it's not called experience builder, it's called Canvas that's coming out. There's a lot of change happening in Drupal where a few people that I talk to are saying, you don't want to use paragraphs anymore. Use Canvas for everything. I don't know how that's going to work. We'll wait and see. I don't know. But then you also have other modules implementing other design systems as well. And so you're going to have this situation where you have multiple design systems. How do you implement things? Like the way you build a Drupal site a year ago is going to change drastically, say, a year or 2 years from now. Who knows? Who knows? Especially with like single directory components, a lot is changing. And yeah, and also I think the market as well with all frameworks and all development is up and down as well. So once you have gone ahead and installed Drush, to run it, all you need to do is run it from the vendor directory, or if you want to, you can configure your path in your terminal and have it just pick up wherever you are within your terminal. But generally, I like to run it just by running vendor/bin/drush. So let me just quickly show you how that works. So if I jump over to my terminal, let me clear that. So I've got my terminal right here. Now, I am using DDEV. So for people who don't know, DDEV is a development environment, like a Docker-based development environment, and it does do a lot of things that make developers' life much easier. For example, I can just type in DDEV drush and I get drush, okay? That kind of defeats the point of showing you other ways of loading it up, but let's just clear this. And what I'll do is I'll go into the container. Let me do that again, DDEV SSH. And what I can do is I can go in vendor bin drush, and I can hit that, and then I can access drush. So generally, you want to just access it from your vendor directory, unless you're using something like DDEV. Now, I can clear that, and I can run it. Now, take note, I am outside of the container. And so I can run drush directly as well. So if I run that, it's going to return a bunch of stuff. But if I do a drush CR, which is a cache clear all, it will complain that it cannot connect to the database. And that is because my local PHP that's set up in the terminal can't connect to MySQL, which is correct because it hasn't been configured. So that's the other thing to be aware of. If you are going to run drush locally, you have to make sure that your CLI version of PHP can communicate with MySQL. Better yet, just use DDEV. That makes life so much easier, because if we jump over to our editor and go to DDEV, I do believe so here I've got settings.ddev. Where is it? I think the database username and password is, yeah, pretty much just db, and db. So of course this cannot connect. It can only connect from the container. So when you are installing it, just be aware of that. Okay, so when it comes to installing it, just run, what is it? Composer require drush/drush, and make sure that your local CLI version of PHP can interact with the database, and everything should work. Now let's go through a bunch of commands. I'm not going to go through every single command because in Drush there's a lot of commands, but I just want to go through the main ones and show you everything, what is available. So let's jump over to our terminal. Let me clear that. And from now on, I'm going to just run DDEV drush. So you can follow, yeah, I mean, when I run DDEV, just think about running vendor/bin/drush. So here, if we're running DDEV drush, we get all of the commands, and we do have a lot, okay? we do have a lot. Let's start off with the best one, and the one that you're going to use the most, and that is DDEV drush status. So this just gives you a nice status of things about your Drupal site. Okay, you can come along in here, you can see the Drupal version, you can see the URI, that's the essentially URL, database details, if it's bootstrapped, what default theme it's using, and all sorts of stuff. Okay, that is the first one. Whenever you set up a Drupal site locally, that is the first thing you run. Now, the next command is probably the one you'll use the most, and that is drush cr or cache rebuild. That just simply rebuilds the cache, and that is it. So you'll do this often when you're making a change, or you're making a twig template change, and you don't want to turn on twig debug. Come in there, clear the cache, clear the cache, clear the cache. Okay, it becomes very, very repetitive. Now, another command which I do like to use, especially when I'm debugging things and trying to figure out routes and URLs, and that is actually called drush route. So if I type in drush and then route, what that's going to give me is that's going to give me a list of all the URLs, so the dynamic routes, and also the name of it, the actual name of the route. So in Drupal, we do have a routing.yml file that stores a lot of these routes. But often when you're using a Drupal site, what happens is you come here and you're like, oh, what is this path? Okay. Where's the code for admin slash, admin slash dashboard. So what we can do is we can come back in here, and I'll clear this, and type in drush route, and you can go ahead and try and search for it. Or the other option is you can use grep. So let's put in pipe, grep, and if we put in the path, let's see if this comes up. There you go. We straight away can see two routes. We have dashboard, which is admin slash dashboard, and then you have another one, which is admin dash dashboard dash, and then this passes the actual dashboard ID. It kind of like it's a typed parameter, so that Drupal knows, okay, we need to load up a dashboard entity. And best of all, you can grab this name, and if we jump into our code, let's go into web and search for things. We should be able to find it under, here it is, it's right here. So you can see here, this is the actual entry for the dashboard. And you can go ahead and then straight away know, okay, it's using this controller, it's using this access, and so on and so forth. So that's a good way of debugging things. Now, another thing you can do, let's clear it. So this is right up the top, is you can change the format. So instead of it being what it was, so what was that? YAML. Wait, no, that's not it. Let me double check that. Oh no. Let's go back here because we need to run it here. So if I type in format YAML, it's going to return it the way, by default, it returns it as YAML, but you can return it as JSON. And you can return it. So if I type in table, you'll see all the available options, because I know table's not available. So you can see that it'll return it as a list. Also, you have a few other options here. XML, if it's supported, string. But the other cool thing you can do, and you can do this with any command, is let's say you want to pull out all the routes using JSON, because for some reason, I don't know, you want to give it to a LLM, for example. Now, of course, this is too much. So what you can do is you can put greater than, and then just give it routes.json. And that will output the results into a JSON file or any type of file. You can call it routes.txt, doesn't matter. And it gives you a nice little output. So sometimes you may be like, well, actually, let me have a look here and, search for a few things. Automatic, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. A whole bunch of stuff you can do. Now, the other thing you can do, and this is actually very useful, is let's bring this back up. So let's look at grep again. And let's search for node. Okay, we do get a lot returned, and you can see that when you use grep and you just put a keyword, it highlights the word node anywhere. Okay, but what if you want to only find routes that start with node and then a dot? All you need to do is put a caret in, because that's going to say only search for caret, which is the beginning of the line. So we can do things like this, and it will only return routes that have node dot at the beginning of the line. So that's a nice little handy little tip of using grep. So anything, and this isn't drush specific features. This is just command line. So by using drush, you learn how to use the command line like a pro. And there you go. Now, another command which you would often use, and that is cron. Now, why would you use this? Well, I've had situations in the past where you log onto your Drupal site and you realize that cron hasn't run for a month. And then you try and run cron and then there's some type of error. Something's failing. And then you might come here and be like, all right, well, DDEV drush cron, and you get an error here. And it's not working, okay? Now, for people who don't know, cron is just a tool that the server may use, and you can configure cron to run at certain intervals. So you can say, run every minute, every hour, at every day at 10 o'clock. You can configure all sorts of things every year, whatever you want, okay? And then cron is used to kind of clean things out, do garbage collection in Drupal. And you can see that if we jump over to our Drupal site and go to cron, and I'm going to use, well, not that one. Let's jump back here, and I will type in option D, which gives us a little coffee pop-up, and I can type in cron and just quickly jump to our cron page. Here you can see that we have a few ways to run cron manually. We can click on cron. I do apologize, I'm saying the word cron a lot. In chronological order. And then you can run it also by hitting this URL. So this is something that has this nice long hash that you can run it from some external server or something, whatever. Now, take a note of this. 44 seconds ago, I can come along in here, I can run cron, and we refresh, and it was run 2 seconds ago. Okay, sweet, everything's working, okay? Now, what if you want to debug things? Because I've had issues where there was an error in one of the hooks, in one of the cron hooks, and it was stopping the rest of the cron functions from running. So what drush has is that if you put in -v, this means it'll return in verbose mode. And this will give us way more information. You can straight away see that it's bootstrapping, and most importantly, you can see all of the hooks that are getting run. Because sometimes what might happen is there will be a new update of, say, redirect 404, and there might be a bug. And for some reason, cron just fails from redirect 404, so nothing gets cleaned up afterwards. But when you run just standard cron, you'll just see an error here, and you don't know if it's actually working or not. So this way, you can type in dash, and if you type in, I think, VVV, gives you even more information. What was that? I think it gives you a bit more time. Let me just do that again. What is the difference? Oh, wait, let me go scroll up. So time took, seconds. Oh, okay. So it gives you this extra information. So if we take a look at, say, update, memory usage and things like that. Okay, it gives you all that. I just didn't notice that. My brain sometimes just, okay, so yeah, this over here, I hope you can see, I hope my face isn't covering it. Probably not. Yeah, you can see up the top here, with standard just -v, it gives you milliseconds, so that's probably the time it took. But then if you scroll further up, you can see here, it's got also seconds. I think it's probably total time or probably eclipsed time, how long it's gone through, and then also the memory. That is useful. That is actually useful. I didn't even pay attention to that. I need to pay more attention to things. Anyway. So using the -v is a great way of just debugging things, because you can even run it on, what is it, drush status, and then if you really want to see everything, see all that. You want to see absolutely everything that gets run, you can see here, everything, pre-flight checks, goes ahead and runs everything. Okay. Now let's take a look at managing users or logging into your user account from the command line. Now, every single time I pull down a Drupal site, the first thing I do is reset the admin username and password, especially locally, because I just don't want to deal with things. Or you can run a command that gives you a login, essentially a one-time login. So if we search for drush user, drush. Well, if you type in drush user, you do get the login added straight away. But let's go ahead and type in grep user, and this will give us all of the user commands. And you have a few here. You can block, cancel, create, info, login, password, remove, role, unblock, so on and so forth. Now, one common one is to run DDEV drush upwp, so update password. And all you need to do is add in the username, which is admin, I know, and just add in the password here. And what this does is this will go ahead and just change the password for admin. And that's it. Of course, you don't want to do this on a production site, let's be honest. Come along in here and just type in admin, and there you go. Okay, you have logged in. But we can go one step further. Even if we do not want to change the password. And this is also, I should mention, this is something that you may want to do if you can SSH into a staging site or even SSH into production. I've been guilty of doing that, where you just want to log on to production, you can SSH into it. Then what you can do is run DDEV drush ULI. So this is the login password. This is the one-time login. And what you can do is click on here and then just go directly to it, and it's going to log you in. And this way, you don't have to, change passwords. You can just log in, and that is it. And also, this is a great way of just making sure you don't have to give passwords, essentially, to user one. And I've worked in environments where we don't even know what the password is to user one, because we just use one time, we use the one-time login. Now, one thing to be aware of with the one-time login, which can be very annoying, is that if you use certain tools, such as this terminal in PHP Storm, so I can go along in here and type this in. I can go ahead and let me do that again and type in drush ULI, okay? Now, this allows us, this terminal in PHP Storm, allows you to just click on it and it will redirect you. But what it does in the background is that it actually hits this path twice. And you can only use it once. So what happens is when you click on this, it'll, I don't know why, but PHP Storm probably checks the path to see if it's valid. Then it redirects you. Or if you, I don't know, sometimes it loads it up in two browsers. And then the second time, in the second browser, you won't be able to log in. Another issue which I've seen as well, and I've worked in places where this has happened, where they may want to just generate a one-time one of these URLs using, say, Microsoft Teams. And I know that this happens in Teams. And so what happens is Microsoft Teams goes to that URL, uses up that one time token essentially to check if it's a valid URL or not a phishing attempt. And then when you actually click on it and use it, it says that you can't use it. So for example, let's just do this. So I'll show you what actually happens. So if I log out of here, so let me log out of here and click on incognito, and I'll run this again, and I'll copy it. So if we go there, yep, we're logged in. If we come along in here, you're going to get this, you've tried it one time and that's it. Okay. And so you can imagine if you're giving these to people via Microsoft Teams, you just click on it and for some reason you can't log in and you're thinking, why can't I log in? And that is because it checks the URL first. And then when you click on it, it's already used up the one-time link. I don't know. It's a thing to be aware of. Okay. So the other option in Drush to be aware of is this one. So let me just bring this up again, like Drush. Okay. Now you'll notice that it's smart enough to figure out the URL or the URI. And that's because we're using DDEV. DDEV is good at figuring this stuff out. But what you can do is you can actually specify it. So you can type in URI and you can do this for any command in Drush that requires a path to be returned. And we can type in https://local.test. And what's going to happen is it's going to generate this using this path. Now, generally you want to set this up, but you may have a situation where you have like a multi-site setup, or you may have some type of thing where you have staging site where you have multiple URLs pointing to the same bit of code or something. I don't know. There can be many reasons why you want to tweak that, but you do have that option. Now, another command to be aware of, and that is drush update DB. So updb. So what does updb do? Well, every single time you update a module, sometimes, not all the time, the maintainer might put in an update hook that modifies the schema or makes some change to your database. And that's why you need to always, whenever you update a bunch of modules, just run update DB to see if there are any changes being done to the database. And so that's just a nice little thing to be aware of. Just run update DB and you should make sure that nothing fails as well. Because occasionally, especially when you're doing Drupal, say 10 to 11 upgrades, you will have a lot of updates. And yeah, just also back up your database when you run it. I just wanted to mention that. Speaking of modules, now let's take a look at, let me just clear this, DDEV, and let's search for, it's PM, this one. So this allows you to return, like list out all of your modules, install them, enable them as well. So what we can do is we can type in drush pm-list, and you can see all of the modules that are enabled or disabled. And you can go one step further. You can actually be, well, let's just, what is it? Status equals disabled. I believe that will, yep. And if you type in status equals disabled, you can see all of the disabled modules. Now, when I do a site audit, often I will run this command and I would literally do this. So I'll check out all of the enabled modules. And then again, you can just run pipe enabled modules and just this is a text file. You can easily do that. And if we jump over here, enabled modules, I can then see a table of all of the enabled modules. And of course, you can change it as well. You can change it to, what is it? JSON. Let's do that. Well, let me bring this up here. So if let's go in modules, there we go. Okay. So that'll be, what would it be? It'll be dash format equals JSON, and then enabled modules.json. Come along in here, and now we have all of our modules in JSON format. So I hope you can kind of see like all the little cool things you can do just by knowing a few standard terminal commands. You can pipe things, you can export the result output and save things into a text format. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. And then you can grab this and give this to, I don't know, some type of tool to go ahead and check things. I don't know. It's up to you. The world is your oyster when it comes to Drush. And that's a good thing about Drush, that it's a CLI tool, and then it straight away gives you access to a lot of things. It's kind of like an API. The API of APIs. So many times, like I know myself, I've been, because I produce a fair bit of videos, I've always wished that, say, Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro just had a command line tool that I can automate things. Simple things like that. Maybe it does. I don't know. I just haven't researched it. But yeah, that'd be great if you can just automate things. Just automate it. All right. So you can also run drush en, which is enable, and then the module. So you can go ahead and enable the module. So we'll enable block content, which allows you to create block types. You can go there and enable it. And now it is enabled. And if you want to disable it, it used to be in good old Drush days, used to be disabled like that, but now it's PM, what is it? I think. And that will allow you to disable it, if it can or can't be disabled. Sometimes if you have working content, it's going to complain and you cannot disable it. But those are pretty cool commands to know about. Now, you can also run arbitrary PHP code. Now, this may be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. It's up to you. But if you go drush and then grep, and let's look at PHP, you can run PHP scripts. So often what I do is sometimes when I'm building out custom functionality or I'm dealing with config a lot, I'll run the following command, which is drush DDEV eval, and then it generates a UUID for me. I can just run that and it'll go ahead and run it. Or sometimes if I have a function where I just need to run a single function, I've done this in the past where I've had to migrate content across, or we've been through a massive rebuild of a site and you just need to run some bit of code during the big deployment. Because you know how whenever you rebuild a massive site, there's always a big deployment. And sometimes you just need to, you have a list of commands you just need to run. You do this, deploy, and you're done. So this is where this drush eval is very useful. So we've looked at how to run PHP code in drush. Now let's look at interacting with MySQL, because that is another important part of using drush, just interacting with MySQL, connecting to it, also potentially importing and exporting out databases. So if we search for SQL, so drush grep SQL, we do have a few options here. So you do have, this is a common one, SQL C, which is a SQL CLI that allows you to drush or SQL C. And now you can essentially connect to your database using something like similar to MySQL Connect or something like that, or MariaDB, whichever one you're using. And if I type in show tables, I can see the tables, and I can also query things as well from Node. And then You can go ahead and query and do whatever you want. From user, you can do the same thing, or no, it's users. There you go. You can query things. Simple. Now, another nice command to use, and that is called the dump. Okay, because what you can do, and this is what I often do, is I will export the database out. So I can type in drush. Well, let me bring this up to the top. Drush SQL dump, then local.sql. That's going to go ahead and export out the database. If we take a look here, we can see, a large file with our actual database. And now to import that in, all you need to do, and this is pretty straightforward, all you need to do is first of all, type in drush SQL drop, and this will remove all the tables within the database. So it is destructive. Do not do this on production. Please do not. So go ahead and run it. Yes, do you really want to remove all the tables? That is correct. I go ahead and I've removed all the tables. And if I jump over to my Drupal site, what's going to happen is I will get the install page because no tables are there. But then what I can do is I can import that in by using the SQL C or SQL CLI. So that is drush SQL CLI, and then less than, because we're pointing and importing in, and then you give it the local. It's going to go ahead, import it in, and yeah, it complains about large files. And if we come back here, refresh, it's going to say that Drupal already exists. It's already installed, because it is. Then we can go ahead and install it right here. And we can go ahead and use it. Now you can also directly query things. So if we type in drush SQL query, and now what you can do is just put in your good old fashioned query. So what is that? SQL, from node. And this should return no, because I've typed it in wrong. It is, let me do that again. It is select star from node. There you go. You can do simple queries like that. Right, well, I've got another comment in YouTube. Thank you for all your videos. I learned a lot from you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining and thank you for the comment. Really appreciate it. I really do. It's good to know people enjoy my videos. Now, the last SQL command we're going to take a look at, that is, so let's bring this all back up. Grep. There we go. Is sanitize. Now, this one is important because you may want to sanitize your data. So what this does is that it will remove, it'll do certain type of sanitation. Not that type of sanitation, I mean to your database user accounts, not home sanitation. So let's log in. Let's just quickly log in. Okay. Now, if we take a look at this stuff right here, so let me also bring up, let me do a few things here, okay? Because it does sanitize the username, the passwords, and also by default, the emails, I believe, and it kind of cleans that stuff out. So I just want to give it a test. All right, so we've got another comment in YouTube. Hi, Ivan. Hello there. There we go. All right, so what we can do is let's bring this up. Oh, let's do that again. Sorry, wrong command. Bring this up and type in. Let me look at my look at the keyboard. Drush SQL san, and what it's going to do. Oh, SQL, not can, SQL san. All right. So it's going to sanitize text files associated with users and usernames and sanitize passwords and email addresses. We'll go ahead. And now if we take a look at things in here, oh, I've logged out. I wonder if I can, oh, of course. So let me log back in. And you can see that the email address has been cleaned out. And this stuff can be configured. And it can be changed in particular ways. So if we come along in here, commands, where is it? SQL sanitize. You do have, yeah, for custom operations. So here you can specify custom operations. So if you do have something that you want done and cleaned out, I don't know, you may want, trying to think, web form data submissions. You may want to clean that stuff out. Maybe there is that functionality. But yeah, things like email you want to sanitize purely, even though seeing the email address isn't the problem is when you import that database in, you don't want to accidentally, and this has happened to me, you don't want to accidentally run cron, which fires off some type of email notification, and then it gets just sent to a whole bunch of people. This way, if it's, where is it? If it is set to localhost.local domain, will the mail server or SMTP ignore that or just reject it? I don't know, who knows. But at least you know this isn't going out to anyone, so you're not going to accidentally send, test notifications. You know how randomly you get on your phone, you get a push notification which just says test test. It's happened to me many times on a few of the apps. So you do spend a fair bit of time dealing with MySQL and things like that. Now, the final command that we're going to take a look at focuses all around configuration management, because you will spend a lot of time importing and exporting out config and just managing config in Drupal. So just to give you a quick introduction into configuration management, Drupal separates out content that's stored in the database like a page, or configuration, which is like module configuration and things like that. Technically, the active state of a configuration, so all of the config on this page. So we come to configuration, everything like site name, slogan, email, that is technically, air quotes, technically stored in the database. But we can export that out into YAML files and then move it around, store it in Git, deploy it, and then import it into other websites. So when you're using Drush, you would often import and export config out, but you can also view config and set it directly using Drush. So let me first show you how to export it out. So if we come into our command line and type in Drush, it is config, I believe, export, but there is a quick key, which is CEX. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. Don't want to be demonetized, but this is the config export command you can run. And because we're running it the first time, it's just going to export everything out into the sync directory. So if we come to web, sites, files, where is it? Sync, you can see all of the config right here, okay? It's a lot. And now if I jump over and change the site name, because that is stored in config, and run, again, config export, it is going to say that something has changed. So what happens is Drupal is smart enough to know, yes, the config, the active state or active config on your site is different to what is exported out in your database. Sorry, what is exported out on your file system. So if we go no, The other cool thing you can do is you can type in -- diff, because if you take a look at this, right, you're thinking, all right, system.site is being updated, but what exactly is being updated? Well, you can run, or you can type no, and let me bring that to the top and type in, not dig, I'm showing my age right now. That used to be a cool site. Diff. Now you can see exactly what's been changed. Now, when it comes to just viewing one change, that's fine. But as soon as you have 5 or 6 changes, the screen, you have to scroll a lot. So it's not, may or may not be useful. Sometimes what you need to do is, if you want to see what's actually being changed, you just export it out and you have a look at the diff using GIF. Let me explain that again. You export it out because it might be a little confusing for people where English isn't their first language. When you export it out, and there's a lot of changes, and your code is stored in Git, the code repository system, then you simply export it out, and then you can do a diff on your actual code, so you can see the difference between your changes. And then if you don't care about exporting it out, then you just revert it. So that's another way of doing it. So we can go ahead and export that out. And now if we jump over and search for, where is it? System site, we should see this right here. There we go. And now what we can do is we can code update. So we can go ahead and update it this way, okay? But if we come to our Drupal site, nothing's changed. And that is because we need to now import the change. Because remember, the active state is stored in the database. Because we might have a situation where we have another developer working with us and they've pushed up a code change, stored it in Git, we pull it down, and now we want to import that config change in. So what we can do is we can type in drush config import. And again, we can see things, but now it's going the other way around. It's going into the Drupal site. And again, if you want, you can run -- diff, and you can then see the change that goes in. Because there is nothing more scarier for a Drupal dev. I don't know about you, but there's nothing more scarier as a Drupal dev when you assume, oh, no, none of the config should be changed, and then you run config import. It's like, oh, what? There's a change? You're like, why is it changing? So yeah, you can do that. So we can go import that in. Now, another useful command when it comes to managing config is the config get and config set. So what we can do is we can run drush c config get. And if we look at our config, we can grab the name. So let's just grab system.site. So we don't have to give it YAML because that's just a file extension. But if we type in system site, it's going to return pretty much everything in the config. But we can get a single property as well. So let's just grab name. So if you type in then space and name, it's going to get us the name. Now, if we want to type in, if we want to get, say, one that's nested, let's try this out. So I do believe, let me just clear that. So let's bring everything up. So that'll be page. So if we type in page, it's going to return all of them. But if we type in page dot, what is it, 403, is it 403? It's going to then, yes, get us just that 403. So we can kind of drill down. So you can just drill your way down into things. And that's the same with config set. So what we can do is let's go ahead and let's clear that. Let's bring up name again. So where was name? Yes, we can bring that up. And if we go see set and we actually give it a value. So let's just type in drush updated. And yes, we're going to import that in. Now, if we jump to our Drupal site, it's automatically updated because that command updates the active config. However, it hasn't updated here. So then what we need to do is come along in here and just type in drush export, and you can now see that it's updating the config on the file system, and we get it. So in the past, I have done this where I've had to just make one config change, especially if you're in a situation, where you may not want to do a full config import and you just want to change one config. You may just log on to production because, sometimes doing massive deployments, I don't enjoy doing deployments. It's always nerve-wracking, but you may want to just make one change to the config and you can easily just run this command and that's it. So that is a nice way of modifying your config. So that's a lot. I know I covered a lot there. I know I covered a lot. We're not done just yet, but I know I covered a lot. So if you type in drush or DDEV drush, you can see that there's a lot of options here. There's a lot of options that I haven't covered, but just have a play with them. See what's available, give things a go, and you'll be surprised what you can do, what you can achieve. And then of course, if you install modules, you will get extra features. All right, now let's take a look at one other command, and that is the generate command, one of my favorite ones, and that's using drush to generate code. Because you don't need AI to generate code for you. Well, technically, what I recommend is use drush generate to generate the scaffolding code and then use AI to do the rest, because then you can at least point AI to a reference. So what we can do is if we type in drush generate, we can see all of the components that we can generate right here. YAML, tests, service, plugins, forms, entities, even drush commands, readmes, all sorts of stuff. Okay. You can generate all sorts of stuff. So let's now go ahead and generate a module. So again, all we need to do is type in generate. So drush generate and then module. And we can give it a name. So now we get prompts. So the module name will be, let's call it ww blocks because we're going to create then a custom block. And used for blocks. Custom, no. And then, okay, we're done. All right, now if we jump over to our site, go to modules, we have our blocks right here. There you go. Pretty simple. Now we need to go ahead and install it. Because when you generate then a plugin or a block for your module, you need to select the module that is going to be added to. And so that module needs to be installed. Because well, let me just quickly show you. So if I type in drush generate block, the first prompt you get is the module machine name. Now our module is not installed, so it's not visible. So what we need to do is type in drush en blocks. We just need to install it, give it a moment. Then we can run DDEV drush generate block. Now we can give it a machine name. So that is our one. And this is an autocomplete. So just search for the name. And this can be CTA. It's going to give us a plugin name. It's going to just pretty much do everything for us. Keep everything as it is by default, and you're done. And now if you jump over to your code, you can see that a plugin has been created. And to see this in action, all you need to do is come to structure, block layout. Where is it? Sidebar. Search for our block and add it to a region, and we're done. And there it is. Dub CTA. That's pretty simple, wasn't it? And that was all thanks to using Drush. And now you can go ahead and just get Claude or whichever AI tool you use to just go ahead and generate things. And that's it. You could probably even create an agent to run drush generate. That's a good way of doing it. It's a pretty good way of doing it. But then at that point, you kind of just want to just script it. Why spend cents on API tokens to just run a simple command? I have done that once. I think I used what was it, Rue code? Was it Rue code or Klein? I think it was Klein. I asked it to just run drush CR, and it was like 10 cents. It was seriously 10 cents because you think about it, he has to pull in all this context, and I'm thinking to myself, I spent more time typing the actual prompt, and I could have just run it. I had one time on Klein as well where I just asked it to do some type of basic CSS thing, and it was a one-liner, and I knew exactly what was required. And it spent about 10, this was a few months ago, so it's probably faster now, but it spent about 10 seconds figuring things out, and you can kind of see the tokens getting used, and he just added one line, and it's like, I knew it was that exact line. I knew exactly where to put it, but yeah, I was too lazy to do it. And now I just do things myself because, well, I use Claude Pro, so I don't have to pay for tokens at this point. All right, so if you need to generate code, look at using drush generate, and then look at using AI. But let's take a look now at actually generating a drush command ourselves, because sometimes you may want to write your own drush command. I know I've done it many times before. So let's take a look at that now. Luckily for us, we can use drush to generate drush commands. It's kind of like a Inception. It just builds, creates itself. So what we're going to do is we can run. So let me bring this up. We can run drush generate, and it's drush command line. And it is command file. Let me do that again. So type in drush generate, then drush command line command file. And then you give it your module name, and then you can essentially have one class for all of your commands. So just leave everything as default. If you want dependency injection, if not, just go ahead. And now if you come along in here, you will see a new plugin. Oh no, it's technically not a plugin. Comes under commands, and you can see this test commands essentially. So you do get two sets, and these are great examples. So the first one is a very basic one, and you can see that it's using attributes now. This is a new PHP thing where it's using attributes for a bunch of stuff, where before it was using annotations, I believe, but now it's using attributes. So you have one example where it just simply outputs a success message, and then you have another one that actually outputs a table, and that's returning a row of fields, whereas this one's just returning a logger. You can see right here. And what you can do is if you jump over to your terminal, we can type in drush and then grep should be able to run this, and this will return us all of the commands straight away. And you can see that if we run these two commands, we will get, so what is that? Drush. So command name, and then test, and then that's just going to return something like that. I do believe, so that's still going to fail. Yes. Okay, it needs an argument. The other option we can run is token, and that will return, I think if we pass in node or something like that. What type of argument is that? Oh, token, oh, name, sorry. So I think it's name, no, what is it? Group. Pass it group. Oh, something. Anyway, this is the test content. So where is the arguments here? So fields, names, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so maybe I need to pass it this way. Anyway, this is just boilerplate code. You can go ahead and modify things yourself. Okay. Now, what I want to do is let's just go ahead and clean up things. Let's just create a command that gives us a count, so we can get a count of how many how many nodes there are based off the content type. What I'll do is I'll remove this one because we don't need it. And let's chuck in, because we need to query things. What we need to do is let's put in use Drupal. What is it? Core. No, not that. Core entity type manager. That's what I want. And we can chuck in. Yeah, this will be entity type manager. There we go. So that's coming along nicely. And now what we need to do is organize these options right here. So the first one will be count. So this is the actual command, count nodes, and we can give it an alias. Let's just give it an alias of count nodes. And the first argument will be content type, and then we give it content type machine name. There we go. And then the usage will be, this is the example. So when you type in -- help, it'll be count nodes and then page, for example. And finally, let's just give it a command of, well, no, the actual count nodes. I do believe these options can go. These options can go. And then we can return void. And this needs to be, oh yes, string content type. And we can specify a default. And I am just going to copy this because I don't want to type it. So now we've defined everything here, and we can go ahead and query our content, pull it in, then it doesn't execute, and then we simply log a success. So hopefully, if everything has worked well, so we've defined our command, we've defined our arguments, and then we have a usage. Let's see if this actually works. Well, let me just bring up, where is it, grep again. All right, well, that's working, hasn't failed yet. So if we type in drush, so blocks count nodes. So what's going to happen? Okay, great, you found two. And we have the default here. So if you do not want a default, okay, if you want to actually force a user to pass an argument, you can go ahead and pass it in, and then it's going to complain about it. So we have to type in page. The other one, let's just quickly jump in. Oh, where is it? Let's install an actual content type. What is it? News? I think news comes with a bit of test content, does it? Yes, it does. 1. Oh, 3 actually. No, actually, yeah. 1, 2. Okay. So what is the proper name of news? That will be just news. There should be one bit of news. Go ahead and you can see that now that's returning it. So as you can see, creating custom commands is pretty straightforward. You can go ahead and create as many custom commands as you want. Now, let's just finish things off by taking a look at the drush YAML file. Now, you may notice that when we're writing a lot of commands, we're writing a lot of the times the same commands, and there are easy ways now. There are easy ways to kind of add in defaults. Now, the drush.yml file, if we take a look at let's take a look at the documentation for that, because where is that? Drush configuration YAML file. Here we go. So here we have the drush YAML file. Is there an example? Yeah, you can put in all sorts of command specific options in there and just configure things. So on a project, you may have a common drush YAML file. So something that I often do is I like to just run drush CI or site install. And this will go ahead and drop the database and just reinstall the site for you. And this is useful for when you're trying to build out distributions or now recipes and things like that. You just want to trash the site and just reinstall things. But you may want certain options to always be filled, because if we take a look at the command, so let's just give this a moment. So if we take a look at the command, right, you can actually pass it a lot of things. As options, you can pass it DB, where is it? DB URL, all these database options, username, email for the account for the user one, site name, site mail, account pass, site name, site pass, all sorts of stuff. You can pass this stuff. Now, typing this out every single time will be annoying. So what you can do is you can come along in here and create a folder called, let me create a folder, new folder called drush. And we can call this one drush.yml. And let's imagine we want to just copy this stuff in. And what this is that you can actually define under command, you can add in a whole bunch of commands, and every time you run site install, it'll set the site name and account to these two options. So site name, drush, YAML. So instead of specifying the site name every single time, because you can see that the default is drush site install, it'll automatically come here. It'll find this drush file and then automatically use this information. So now if we take a look here, so let's go to our site. You can see that, yes, it says drush site install, drush si, and then run it. And what's going to happen is that it's going to find this drush.yml, see that we are running this command, and then set these options in the command. Then once everything is done, we should have a nicely configured site name. Fingers crossed. Nah, it's going to work. It's going to work. We can see here straight away the username is site admin, sorry. And if we refresh, there you go. Site name is drush.yml. And I do believe you can also pass in -y so that it automatically runs it. You can also set the verbose. That's pretty cool. What is it? Yes. Let's have a quick look at this. Bring it up. And what we can do, I thought I saw that somewhere. Verbose. And you can set things like dump options, MySQL dump options, and things like that. Yeah, there is a lot you can configure here. There's a lot you can configure. Let me just double check that. I type in, wait, nah, that's not going to work. All right. Let's bring this up. Non-interactive on. Maybe if we type in, so yes, yes. Let's see if this works. Right, it's still passing that, isn't it? Maybe I'll type in dash. Ah, it's still passing that. Ah, okay. Was it non-interactive? Where was that? I thought I saw that. No, verbose. No, it's somewhere here. Maybe you can't. No. Maybe I was making it up. I will find it. I will find it. Drush.yml. Ah, here we go. That's pretty much the same file I looked at. Okay. That's all right. That is all right. Skip. Anyway, let's just remove that. Simple. Problem solved. So if you do end up running the same command over and over and over again, and you just want to set nice defaults, then check out using the drush.yml file. Well, that is pretty much it when it comes to using Drush. As you can see, there's a lot you can do with Drush. So we looked at a few common commands, some popular commands, how to import, export, config, how to, what else did we do? How to run, update DB, how to interact with the users, and then we looked at how to use Drush generate, which is a great way of just generating awesome amount of content. Looked at using our, or creating a custom command, and on top of that, we looked at setting the drush.yml file. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone learned something new about Drush. If you want to learn more about WebWash, head over to webwash.net. And also, if you have any ideas on other live streams, please let me know. And I also have to mention that there is a new premium community over at WebWash, which is WebWash Premium. I've got lifetime access now for 99 euros. Gets you access to a bunch of the popular videos, ad-free and edited. So they're nice and short, not as long. And also you get access to a premium community as well, where you can ask questions and just get all your Drupal questions answered. And this is a nice way of just supporting the channel, just to, yeah, show that it's a good way to show that there's a demand for Drupal stuff, because I do think Drupal is going to change a lot in the next few months when Drupal Canvas comes out. That's a big change. It's a massive change. And recipes as well. I think that's going to be a big win for Drupal. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time. All right, so how was that? Where is that? I thought I saw that command somewhere. So here we have sites.yaml options. Contribute, commands, generators. No, it's not. Anyway. Well, that is it. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Please, if you have any questions, chuck them in at the bottom of the video. If you have any great Drush commands, please let me know. And also tell me how you're using Drush. That's important. I did also forget to mention, also forgot to mention, people might be thinking, why do you have WP CLI here open? I forgot to mention that right down at the bottom here. Drush has been, it has inspired a lot of people. And that's why you see Drush, the credits, Drush for a lot of things. So yeah, Drush has been around for a while. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. I'll catch you all next week. See you later.